to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep. What company do you keep?
Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the south side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it. Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It. As you can see, Sharon is not here this week. I am Sherelle Higgins, and I can do whatever I want because Sharon is not here this week, and I'm going to do just that. I am going to take over this show talking about the only hood that matters, and that's right, I said hood, H-O-O-D. The only hood that mattered. As you can see, I have with me two very fine gentlemen, and I'm not to be biased or anything, but the fine one on the left, this one right here, on my left, y'all right. Yes, that's my man. Of 27 years married, and we're almost in September, and 34 years together. Yes. Look how fine he is. That's why I kept him around, y'all.
Likewise.
We just a fine couple. So as you can tell, we starting the show out with some laughs. We're going to end the show with some laughs. But before we get started, I must do as we always do. Normally Sharon does it when she's here, is read a scripture from the Bible. I'm going to read Ephesians 6, 1 through 4, where it talks about children obey your parents. So if you have children in the house, I'm going to give you about 2 seconds to get them in the room so that they can hear that again. Children, yes. Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And so that scripture is right on time for what hood we're going to talk about today with these two fine gentlemen that I have with me co-hosting. And I'm going to tell you, on the left is James Higgins, my husband, as I already mentioned. And on the right, we have Carl Reynolds Jr., and they're going to be talking to us and engaging us in conversation about fatherhood. That's so important in our community. And these two gentlemen are going to be coming to you talking about fatherhood from two different perspectives. And so we'll talk about those perspectives here shortly. But in the meantime, as you know, Sharon and I both were away last weekend. I was traveling to Boston with my son because, of course, you know, I'm a soccer mom. And we went to Boston to support him in a tournament where his team got smacked 2 games out of 3. We went all the way to Boston to get beat like we beat people down here in Virginia and in the DMV area. But that's okay. It was a good experience. That's what we're supposed to say.
There you go. Lesson learned.
And so I'll be away next weekend. You know, it's summertime, so we got plans. We got things to do. But Sharon will be here next weekend. But I'll be away in Denver next weekend with the boy, putting him in front of some college coaches out in Denver. And so let's all pray that he get a full FULL scholarship because he can't afford to pay for college, and neither can we. So before we go on to anything else, I want to just take a minute to do some birthday shout outs, and I know Carl wants to do some as well. This is cancer season, and I tell you, almost every day of the cancer season is somebody's birthday in my family or one of my close friends. And it just simply amazes me how many cancers we have in our family. But just some notable ones I want to mention to you. Our daughter, Tasia Higgins, she turned 21 on July 1st. And, you know, we like partying, and then we remember she was still on our bankroll. So that kind of killed the party. And then, so happy birthday, Tasia. We're proud of you. 21 years. Hurry up and get off our bankroll. My younger sister, somebody Jim and I raised and continue to raise every day, is our sister Kiki. Kiki's birthday is next Friday, and I ain't gonna tell you her age because she might not want everybody to know until she put it on Facebook. But happy birthday, Kiki. I know I'm gonna be in Denver, but when I come back, we'll see what we can get the kids to buy you.
Happy birthday.
And last but certainly not least, my grandfather. His birthday is tomorrow. He will be 98 years old.
Wow.
And
Congratulations. Happy
yes,
birthday.
happy birthday to him. He's my maternal grandfather. He is just a hoot, let me just tell you. And he's always said that he never wanted to live to be 100 years old. But that just goes to show you that it's not our plan, it's God's plan.
He's well on his way.
And, you know, he's so close to 100 that even if he passed away tomorrow on his birthday, we just going to call it 100.
He lived to 100 years old.
And nobody better not tell us he didn't. So happy birthday to you, Granny. I wish I could be in Chicago to put a big kiss on your face. So with all of that said, I'm going to actually, again, introduce you to Carl Reynolds. He's on my right. I know he has a special birthday shout-out that he'd like to do as well.
Yes, I want to say happy birthday to my mom. Happy birthday, Mom.
Right.
Love you.
Happy
You're my
birthday.
queen. You're my heart. You're my backbone. You've been there for support for so many years. I thank you. I love you. I really, 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 really appreciate it.
All right.
I also want to say happy birthday to my I'm sorry. I was messed up on your birthday. 18-year-old daughter, Corinne, whose birthday is actually next week.
Happy birthday, Corinne.
Happy birthday.
Which is another thorn in my side, but
We
I
tend
love
to
you.
say a thorn in our bankroll.
there you go. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think I'm going to steal that from y'all.
Happy birthday, Corinne.
Happy
That young
birthday,
lady
baby.
can sing. When I tell you this young lady can
Yes.
sing, she has been touched by the Lord and blessed with the
then
voice
she
to be
might-
able to sing.
She must be singing then.
Yeah.
Oh, she's singing.
Oh, yeah, she can sing.
Singing the money right out of my pockets.
All right.
So, okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump right into our topic of fatherhood.
Right.
I know
Yes.
Father's Day was a couple weeks ago, and I had an artist on the show with me that day, and it didn't even occur to me that when I was making those arrangements that the Sunday was going to be Father's Day, because you know that's how you do for Father's Day. Everybody know
Toss
when
to
it's
the
Mother's
side.
Day.
Toss to the side.
So what I decided is we can make any day Father's Day on Sisters in Company talking about it. So I need you to go on listenvisionlive.com and check us out as we talk about being a father, because this is something the media is never going to talk about, and this is something the media is never going to give us credit for. So it's important that we go ahead and talk about it now, and talk about it in such a way that it's positive. Hit the live video. I don't know why that shut down. Keep going. Hold on, y'all. Right there. So we're going to talk about fatherhood. We're going to talk about it from two different perspectives. The first perspective that we're going to talk about is going to be from a man who is a father, and he's in the home, and he's married to the mother of his children. So we're going to talk about it from that perspective, and then we're going to talk about it from a perspective of a man who is raising his kids predominantly as a single father. Not that, and that doesn't suggest that his kids doesn't have a relationship with their mother, because they do. It's just that the kids live with him primarily. And so we want to talk about it from that perspective, because we know that in a lot of instances, the media want us to believe that the black men are not stepping up to take care of their kids. And I'm going to show you two examples, and there's many, many examples out there of men who are taking care of their kids and, doing it the best way that they know how. And so I want to give you a little flavor of how long they've been fathers. I'm going to ask each of them. Jim, how long have you been a father?
21 years.
And Carl, how long have you been a father?
19 years.
Okay, so they have some experience in fatherhood. We're not talking about people who, two men who have a 6-month-old and think they have some experience. You don't have no experience until you've been through the teenage years.
Right.
That's when the experience show up.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about being a father, and I'm gonna ask you first, Carl. Where did you learn how to be a father, or was that something that you had to teach yourself as you went along?
It was something that I had to teach myself as I went along. I was offered textbooks. They they can give you some insight, but each child is different. You have to raise your child to your, to what you can do. Raising two daughters, two different personalities is, I can't say you go to bed and send the other one to bed because she's going to reject the bed. So I had to find a different way to send her to bed.
Right. Okay. And what about you, Jim?
First, Carl has two daughters. I have a girl and a boy. And so, once again, there's no textbook to all of this. And you say, where did you learn to become a father? And I think it was also I know it was also while I was trying to become a man also. So we can
Biggest
throw
thing.
that in there too.
Yes.
Learning to be a man while you're trying to be a father also. Everything you're taught to be a man, you have to change when you become a father. When you're young, you say, for boys, be tough. Don't cry. But when you become a father, you have to be sentimental, and you may cry. Showing sensitivity.
Right.
So I'm still learning.
Okay.
Always.
I don't have this fatherhood thing down. I'm still learning daily, and I'm 54 years old.
You look good for 54.
Hey.
And so I think you bring up a good point, because in many instances, not just African American men, but men in general become fathers before they learn how to become a man. And I think you brought up a good point. So, Carl, let's talk about, now that Jim brought that very valid point up, let's talk about something that was a defining moment for you, where you had to really realize that, no, as a man, I have to do it this way, versus because I am a father, versus not, just kind of free flowing, just going out there free flowing.
It's, wow. I mean, some days I had to buckle down and be like, I got to go to work. I can't just take off. Why people say, well, why can't you just take off on this weekend when everybody else is off? Because I have to work. I have to provide. I'm the single father. I'm the one that have to make sure that my kids are eating. I'm the one that have to make sure that my kids have a roof over top their head. You can be a provider. You can be a father. But the main thing is being a man is you just have to go in and do it. You just can't say, okay, I'm just going to do it for this time. No, you have to represent yourself as a man constantly, all day, every day, no matter what the situation is. You can be a man that cried. You can be a man that can be happy. As long as you represent yourself as a full man, then you have a backbone about it.
The question with that is, what is a man? And,
I heard it's a man who, you a man if you don't do the wobble. I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing. Like, why does the dance have to be attached to a man's manhood?
Right. Yeah, you have to, some people put, criteria on being a man.
Right.
And it could, it all goes back to, where did you learn to be a father? I mean, how did you grow up? And it boils down to the individual also, how you deal with how you grew up. If you grew up in a bad situation, do you turn it around and say, well, I'm going to continue that behavior, or I'm going to break it right here? That's on you. When you look in the mirror and say, well, I grew up like that, I'm not going to have my kids grow up like this, so I'm going to do everything I can. People ask, where did you learn? I don't know where you learn. There's, like I said, there's no book,
no
and
textbook.
you just have to dig down into your soul and become that father, that mother, that man, that woman.
So I'm going to just remind our audience, if you want to call in and join in on this conversation, you can call us at 833-202-TALK. That's 833-202-TALK. So that discussion about being a man is so important because manhood is tied to not any different than what womanhood, but manhood is tied to so many things that has absolutely nothing to do with being a man. And so, it's interesting to me. I joke about doing the wobble, but I really do have a friend, I love him dearly, who talk about men who do the wobble aren't really men. And I'm just like, okay, so that to me doesn't make sense because I don't know what a dance have to do with your manhood. I'm thinking, your manhood is more, tied to your character. It's more tied to your integrity. It's more tied into how you, interact with your family and how you take care of your family. It's not necessarily tied to a dance. So I know that there's a lot of testosterone amongst men, and men have to live up to certain images. And so let's kind of talk about when you realize, Carl, that manhood is about the character and the integrity, not necessarily about all of these other superficial factors.
Well, I would like to say I watch cartoons.
Okay,
I'm
not
sorry.
wrong with watching cartoons.
I'm sorry. I like to watch cartoons. I'm just put it out there. To me, that it's a title. I represent myself, who I am. Just because I have a beard, a not so deep voice, but I guess a subtle type voice, and I carry myself well. I'm me. So far as a title on a piece of paper, I have to check off man, or male. So,
A grown man watching cartoons.
hey,
Is that any different than a grown man playing video games?
No.
Okay. All right.
To me, it's like a hobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a hobby. Jim likes to ride his bike. I don't ride bikes anymore. That doesn't make him less of a man.
Right.
That doesn't make me less of a man. We both have different hobbies. That's that's just my point of view. Is the way how I look at it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you believe that how you behave and how you carry yourself as a father dictates the type of man that your daughters will be attracted to?
Oh, of course.
Okay. So,
Of
Jim,
course.
let me ask you, do you think the type of man that you are dictates not only the type of man your daughter is going to be attracted to, but also it teaches your son how, number one, how he should treat women, and two, how he should be as a man?
I think it has a large influence, but I don't think that it will teach them. I mean, once again, everybody's an individual, and there's certain things that they do, or they're in situations that cause them to do things. So I think that, yes, like I said, it is a big influence, and you hope as a parent that behavior characteristic is noticed, and that's what you want, and so that's what you try to, show the behavior that you want somebody to look forward to having in their life. But you never know. You never know. I mean, people do different things for different reasons.
Correct.
I don't, not that anybody asked me, but I'm going to offer my opinion here.
What's your thought, Sherelle?
Hey, Sherelle.
As a man, Sherelle, what is your thought?
They got jokes.
All day in the hood.
I really believe that as how we behave as adults really has an impact on the type of relationships our kids are going to eventually end up in. But I don't believe that whatever we show our kids is going to prevent our kids from making mistakes along the way, and making bad decisions. And as a parent, one of the things that I hold near to my heart in terms of my kids making bad decisions is, as long as they're age appropriate bad decisions. You can't be 30 acting a fool like you should have did at 18. Like, that ain't cute. So I expect you to go, as a parent, go through different phases of life and to reap the rewards of maturity along the way. So when you say that, you and how you display things to Jalen and Tasia, that they you could hope that they will follow, along. I believe that in the long run they will, because, once you know better, you do better. And, you're going to, as young adults, they're going to just make bad decisions. And then they're going to, sooner or later, the light bulb's going to come on, because they going to witness the difference.
Man, the light bulb kicked on for me when I turned 35.
And that's what I was just going to say, at what. And
Okay.
because you expect them at a certain age appropriate to make those mistakes.
Yes.
That's not the formula for everybody.
Right.
And so, I guess back to the individual is what you are going to put up with and where you're going to draw the line if you're dealing with an individual with that type of behavior. But that person can still go through life all their life, and they may not figure it out till they're 50-something.
Right.
Where you're
Right.
expecting to say, hey, man, you should have did that at 18. I did.
Right.
And I learned from it. But
Not necessarily what I was doing at 18, because,
Well,
we can't tell that story. But I'm talking about, for this day and time. Because times is completely different from when I was 8, and Lord knows when you were 18, since you're the
to a
oldest one
whole
up here
2
on this
years
panel.
earlier. 2 years earlier.
Hey, I wasn't even born when you was one.
So imagine what I know.
You don't know nothing.
Just sit down.
So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted.
See how they do.
So Carl, you said the light bulb came on for you when you was about 35.
Yeah.
So what do you attribute to that? Do you think it was just you just was bound and determined to learn life your way, or do you think it was what do you attribute to that? I know that the studies, whatever, if you want to believe those, say that men typically mature slower than women. And so you were a father long before you were 35. Mm-hmm. And so what do you contribute to that light bulb moment?
Based off the individual and your lifestyle and what you experience throughout life. A lot of people can surpass any. Okay, so for instance, I can surpass what you know if I put my mind to it. Mm-hmm. It's all based off the individual. Mm-hmm. But you will never know any and everything. But to get back on topic, the light bulb for me kicked on when I was 35, when I realized, hey, I got 2 kids. I'm on my own. I have, my mom that's helping me every now and then when she can, but majority it's all on me. Mm-hmm. So yes.
Excuse me. So how old were you when you had your first child?
I was 25.
See, and we were what? 20?
Not we. You. Not we.
Well, I ain't gonna say
Just
your
you.
age, but we were at that older than that.
Okay.
When we had our first child, so we had.
You were 33.
How old were you then?
This it's about fatherhood.
See,
I was 31 and I was
Okay.
rocking it.
So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted.
I was helping you.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
See, that's that marital life.
right. I was gonna say the difference is that we as a couple, we were married and then lived our lives 6-7 years before we had kids, and when did the light bulb kick on for me? I don't know. It was like a decision.
Right.
Brought a subject that was brought to my attention, like, hey, you want to have kids, and if we're going to have kids, we're of age where we should, have them now before it's too late. Where other people have had kids when they're 18 and live, learning to be an adult and having kids, while we became adults and then had kids. So that's a whole different situation of how things, like you say, your light bulb came on at 35. I don't know when my light bulb came on, but as a couple, we made that decision, and it was just like a natural progression of life for us.
And that's another thing, when you have parents that's in the house and you have a household that doesn't have, just have a single parent. That also makes a difference on how, well, I'm not going to say how the child is brought up, because one parent can definitely make a difference in how the child is brought up and their education.
Well, and it definitely is, a criteria.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's just a different experience. You know, I grew up in a single parent household for many years, and I think it's just a different experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think it's, you know, one way is better than the other or whatever. I mean, to me, which, you know, this is going to be a good topic to talk about, you know, to me, as long as you co-parent effectively, if the relationship between the parents don't work out, then you should be able to put your differences aside long enough to be able to co-parent correctly. And if the relationship didn't work out at some point, I'm guessing that, you know, both parties had to say, okay, this relationship is over. At least one party had to say it, and the other one probably left kicking and screaming. But you know, eventually you got to get past that.
Correct.
And so, you know, let's talk about co-parenting, Carl. Like, how does that work for you? How do you and your children's mother co-parent?
Man, that's like a pot of gold. Sorry, but it's like a pot of gold. For her and I, you know, we married for 5 years.
Okay.
Before that, we was together for, sorry if my math is wrong, probably about 12 years before we got married.
Okay.
Or even 13.
And that's a serious relationship.
Yeah, that's commitment.
Yeah. So we were actually together longer than we were married.
Okay.
We co-parent. Actually, we figured it out a long time ago that if we're apart, we actually parent better than together. Mm-hmm. But those 5 years was like up and down, sideways, around and round. Right is wrong and wrong is right. So, but
did you guys have the same thought process, even though you parented separately?
On some things we did.
Yeah.
On some things we did. You know, it was days when she would tell me, "Hey, look, I think you should be more gentle on the girls. You know, not treat them so rough as boys." I'm like, well,
Because you're a man. That's
exactly. Because I'm a man. You know, my girls got to be tough. Hit them high, hit them low. Boom, boom.
right.
You know, so co-parenting, you know, it works based off of if you're willing to accept that both of you are apart from each other and you're willing to still allow each other to be in each other's lives. And that's the biggest key right there, the biggest thing.
Right.
As long as the kids see you both working together, then they may or may not have a hard future if they decide to, you know, have kids.
Well, you know what's interesting to me is we typically use the word co-parent when the mother and the father is no longer in a intimate relationship. But when you have two parents in the house, you have to learn how to co-parent as well, and that's not always as easy because Jim just refused to follow my lead on parenting the boy. So, you know, co-parenting goes both ways. If he would just listen to me, I think we would probably co-parent in a much better way. Now, that's just my plug. It's not going to happen, but it's just, you know, something I had to throw out there, particularly about the part of listening. He probably didn't hear what I said just now. So, Jim, so what do you think about, you know, co-parenting when you have two parents in the household?
It's a compromise. I mean, just like as a relationship, you have to learn how to compromise. So even though because we had a daughter and a boy, you know, there are things that I couldn't teach Tasia, tell Tasia. And I remember way back in the day, you know, Sherelle was always doing her hair, and I never learned how to do her hair. And she was like, "Ooh, I can't wait till we have a boy. It's gonna be all you," you know. And that, I think I literally took that like Tasia's hers and Jalen's gonna be mine, you know. So
he did. he literally did take it that way.
And so, you know, I was involved with Tasia and, you know, going to school, PTA and all that stuff. And then, you know, when she became a teenager, you know, it was even, I felt less for me to tell her, you know. And as she's going through life, you know, I call her up and tell her my opinion on something, and that's about it. You know, we have a relationship where if I have something to say, I call her up and tell her.
Okay.
You know, and then she's, "Hey, Daddy."
Oh, she real fake with it. I call her. She be like, "Hi, mommy." I put the camera on her father. "Hey, daddy." I'm like, "Look at you with your fake self."
Oh wow! So did y'all go through the phase of, what is it? The daughter father and the son mother.
Well, we it's not a phase. We have it, constantly. So, that's probably how it is when you live in a separate household. Mm-hmm. You're over there for a minute, you come back, and now it's this way over here. Well, at our house, it's like you can go around the corner, it's like this. You go around the corner, it's like that. Okay. Which one do they listen to? And, we have done a good job showing a united front. Mm-hmm.
That's
but
good.
Behind closed doors,
because we Team Higgins.
Behind closed doors, I may have my opinion about it. And she'll say her bit, and I'll say my bit, and I think the child will usually choose maybe, which way they want to go. I don't know, but
whatever works out in their favor.
Yeah.
So have y'all ever bump heads in
all the time
decision?
All the time. I mean, you got to expect that because men think very differently than women.
Totally.
And women think very differently than men.
Totally.
And so when you think very differently, there's no just always an agreement. Right. Like Jim said, you say your piece and then you got to move on because at that point it is what it is.
And man, woman, emotional, as opposed to man being tough. Even with Tasia, when we're on the soccer fields, we're cheering them. You always sound like you yelling, and I'm just getting my point across straight to the direct.
We keep trying to tell him it's his tone. we just keep trying to tell him it's his tone.
I understand that. And Sherelle's like, "Go on, get him, Jalen. Don't let that boy outrun you. He gonna push you down too." I'll be like straight direct, man. Don't let that dude outrun you, man.
See the difference in the tone?
Yeah, it's expected, boy. I better run him down. Sure wasn't. You better get him, Jalen. It was my part that made him run faster.
So when Mama said something, it was a trot. Okay, let me speed up. Daddy.
Who knows? But that's how I felt.
Okay.
But that's why I sit way over in the corner. So, and
right.
It's only my opinion matters.
Well, it's funny you bring up soccer because Tasia plays soccer, Jalen plays soccer. That was their primary sports.
Oh, nice.
And there were the same group of parents who would always be at the games where you would have both the mother and the father at majority of the games. Mm. And so that's very interesting to me. And I get that, people got to work and, people got other things going on. They got other kids. And, when we had two kids playing soccer, sometimes we had to divide and conquer.
Right.
I think most of the time, we lucked up and the kids had games where we could both be at both games. Mm-hmm. And so, wait, hold on. We have a call. Oh, that's Sharon. Hold on. Welcome to Sisters in Company, Sharon. How can we help you?
Take it off speaker.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I can't operate this phone that way.
Look at it. Hello?
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Take it down.
Okay. Sharon?
Hi, I'm really enjoying this show. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Carl. I don't think I know Carl, but thank you for being a guest on our show today, Carl.
No problem. Anytime.
Jim, you really, you all just said something that just really, really struck a nerve with me in terms of what I think is important. When we talk about parenting and, even having single parents, you talked about the voice. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that children need to hear the voice of both parents. Mm-hmm. They need to hear the female voice, male voice. And when they don't hear one of the other voices, when they go out into the world and that voice, they hear that voice, it's not recognizable to them. And so they don't even really know how to respond to it. What do you all think about that?
Mm-hmm. Jim?
Well, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to say it how I'm going to say it, because you're going to hear it out in the world. Maybe not from me, definitely not from me. Well, just out in the world, somebody may hit you with that. And if you've never heard it before, you may not know how to react, And my dad used to yell at me worse than that for playing sports. You ain't, So,
right.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I mean, well, I made sure that they stayed in contact with their mom no matter what the situation is or was. If we had an argument and we didn't speak to each other for months, I still made sure that they spoke to their mother. Or if it was my mom or my sister. But I made sure that they had a female to talk to, because me, who I am as a person, I'm not going to have all the answers and, for all the questions that they have. So I guess that's my little tidbit on it.
Sharon, did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard the last part. So thank you for that, because I think you're both spot on. And when we talk about our males, particularly our black males, people often talk about authority, that they don't recognize authority. And they don't recognize authority because they haven't heard the voice, because so many single moms are raising them. And so for me, when you all said that, you talked about that light bulb. That light bulb came on again. Although I'm an educator and I always knew this, we don't, in society, don't always recognize what's really missing. And so that's why when we have single parents, we always say, please try to have a male mentor or a female mentor in their lives, because it's not only about what they can do for them, but it's the voice that they hear. So I just thought that was powerful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, both voices are powerful. You have to have the right person in a child life. You just can't have any person in their life.
And to me, it's either the kids learn it at home or they learn it out here in these streets. And, learning it out in the streets is not always the best solution and the best way to learn it. Right. And so, I talk often with my team at work about modeling the behavior that you want to see other people emulate. Now, they don't have to be exactly like you, because there's no such thing. But we definitely need to make sure that we are modeling the behavior. And Sharon, I tell you, I wish that you and well, not so much you, but I wish Ira was here, because I would have had him on the show to be able to really talk about not being the custodial father, but the commitment that he that he had for making sure that his daughter was raised and knew him, and that he was at most of her events, and that he made her a priority being a father outside of the home. And so, I just think that that's just powerful. And if he was here, I would definitely have him on the show.
But yeah, we can definitely make that happen on
Yes.
another show, because there are multiple perspectives.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
I believe that these fathers are trying to do the best that they can. And I tell you, the voice is so very important. And we as women, particularly, that's a whole nother conversation. We have to let men be men. And we may not like the deepness of their voice, because our voices are not that way. They're just being who they are. And their little boys need it. They need it. And so sometimes we have to just step back and just let them do what they know how to do as men. And so I just think it's just a powerful conversation today. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Look, I agree, but it's tough sometimes. I tell you, as a mother, it's tough. Look, I'm monitoring my words very carefully. It's the truth. It is the truth, and sometimes it's difficult, because as a mother, I can speak for myself. There's just certain things that our son does that doesn't bother me at all, but grates on the daddy's nerve. And so, the daddy could go from 0 to 600 real quick over something that I'm not even tripping over.
Gemini.
And so, yes, Gemini, the quiet, sweet, non-confrontational one that people think he is. And so it is very different, and it is different as a mother. There's certain things that Jim hit on. And Carl said it too, that we can't teach our sons, and he can't teach his daughters,
Right.
And as a mother, sometimes, it might be hard, but you got to step back and just kind of let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have a question. So let me just throw this question out. I'm going to get off and let you all address it. But from my experience and my research, men have a greater sense of mortality. And so when you said, Sherelle, that certain things grate Jim's nerves or whatever, I'm thinking, is it more about you're just trying to pour as much as you can into your child because your sense of mortality as a man seems to be a little different than we as women? So I don't know if that makes sense, but if you all think you can tackle that, please do.
I can, yeah. For me, I tell Jalen all the time, when we're alone.
Right.
I tell him all the time, I'm not your mom. I'm not your mom, and I'm not going to handle, look at things the way she does, and I'm not going to coddle you the way she does, man, because I'm trying to tell you how to do this, because this is how it's going to be come life. While she doesn't do certain things, she doesn't do them, so it doesn't matter to her how it gets done. Because she doesn't do them at all. And if you go, you can't come nowhere. I don't care where you are. You can't come nowhere half-assing shit. No matter where you are, don't come up in here half-assing. And that's what I try and drill into them, because, and I'm that kind of guy. I'm around the house. So, that's my house. I'm around the house so I can see when something isn't right. And you were supposed to do it. So how many times are we going to have to go over this, man? Because sooner or later, one day, you're going to have to do it. And what gives me pleasure in all this, there are times when I'm not around, and he does do it, and I laugh to myself. But then other times, 5 times in a row, he won't do it, and the one time he does, and I had to laugh to myself.
Right.
Knowing like when I come upon somebody else, they'll tell me, oh, Jalen was a nice guy. He did this and he did that. And so around me, he may not do it, but when he goes out in public, he knows to do it. And that's kind of satisfying to me to know that all of this, I may be an asshole, but it's sinking in.
There you go.
So wait, hold on for a second, because Jeff says he wondered what we think about cultivating the child's own voice. I think each person needs both feminine and masculine voices in order to be successful. Children have voices. Depends on what kind of voice you're talking about, Jeff. I ain't getting ready to tell no lies. My kids ain't got no whole lot of voice.
Some people take it too far.
Yeah.
And the kid, they telling, sorry, Jeff. They have voices, but are they running the household?
Right.
My
and that's
patience is that small for that mess. I can't be around that. When we walk into a house when the children is out of
control. Yes, it's too much.
I raised both of my daughters with a voice. Well, myself and my ex-wife raised both of our daughters with a voice. So when it comes down to a debate, and they all know I do not like to debate because I lose every time. But deep down, they know when I say something and I'm very stern about it, it goes.
I'm not debating with my kids. That's just me. My kids have a voice, and they certainly have some decision points that they get to make in their lives in terms of the direction that they're going to go in and how they're going to handle themselves. But at the house, they ain't no debating. That's my house. You go live in your house and debate with whoever you want to debate with at your house. But over here, I ain't feeling it. We can have some conversations if we need to, but when it come down to it and I just go straight to the shut up, then that means just be quiet. Don't say nothing else. It's over. The conversation is done. Because as you go out in the world, everything is not debatable, and you can't go on your job and be debating with people when it's not your organization.
Right.
And so teaching kids that they have that type of voice at the house means that when they go out into the workplace, that's the type of behavior they're going to have, and then they're going to find themselves unemployed and not really understand what the problem is because they've been allowed to debate at the house.
That is true. I had a situation earlier.
I believe that.
One of my daughters.
So just one more question.
Yes.
One more question, and I'm going to hang up for real. What type of advice do you all give your children regarding dating? And I'm going to hang up so you all can answer that.
Okay, that's a good one.
Okay, can I start with that?
Yeah,
Okay,
start
so
with that.
I've always been against it. I've always been against dating for a certain reason, from what I've seen growing up. Their mom, she chose a different option. She allowed them to date without me knowing, and I did have an issue with it. I think there's a time and an age limit for everything. Do I think that the kids should be around it? Yes. Because at some point in time, it's going to happen to them. But far as actually being to date and having that person in your home and spending the night under the age of 15.
Under any age, if you're not married, don't bring them over here talking about spending no night. I don't care if you live together. That's a no.
And then, again, Carl has 2 daughters.
Right.
What if you had a boy? What age could he date?
That's a whole different subject.
yeah, see,
I would pretty much I would allow my son to date.
But
starting
you was
around
just
the age of 12.
You said
Around the age of 12.
Starting around the age of 12. Well, for me, because I raised girls, it's a whole different mindset for me.
I understand. That's what I was
so
getting at.
that's
my
why
point.
I had to.
That's my point.
But why is that?
Because
Why
that's your
is
boy.
it?
Yeah,
It's a man
chip off
thing.
chip off your own blackhead. No, I mean, I think for a man, it's always your daughter. It's always protection.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
You're trying to protect her, and so again, you grew up as a man.
Mm-hmm.
So what is protection for a woman? Do you let them go out and experience stuff and make decisions for themselves, or do you dig down into deep and all the things about men and brothers who you date, who dated and all that stuff, and are you trying to protect your daughter from that type of mindset out in the street? You
can never protect your daughter from any type of mindset.
You're right, because you can bring them up in a certain household, and protect them,
Right.
and then you let them go, and then they get into all types of stuff that they knew was out there, they heard about, and
Because there's always a wolf in sheep's clothing.
exactly right, because that dude is out there telling
But
them
these girls, they serious out here in these streets now.
Yeah.
These young girls are just as out here as these young boys are. And so for us to have a double standard for our girls versus our boys, it's challenging because Tasia and I have been talking about, and I've mentioned it to Jim a time or two. He don't really seem interested, but just the difference in raising a boy versus a girl. When Tasia started driving, she had to have 4 years worth of experience before she could even look at driving my car. And she needed 3 years of experience before she could even look to drive his car. But now, here we have the young boy coming up, and he could drive whatever car starts up. And his daddy don't see nothing wrong with that.
So will that always be a topic of son versus daughter on age preference on anything that goes?
Absolutely.
So
because
that's a household thing.
Because yes, it happens at everybody's house who have both species. Because typically when the man is in the home, he typically raise his son to be what he perceived to be a man, and they just kind of treat him differently. And it's not anything different than your older daughter versus your younger daughter.
Right.
I'm sure if we talk to your older daughter, she'll say that the younger one got away with a whole lot more than what she ever could have got away with.
Other way around. Other way around. Yeah.
It's the other way around?
Other way around.
It's the younger one saying that the older one get away with a
Yes.
lot? Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's different.
That's very different.
Okay.
When I look at everything as I treated them both equal, if I didn't give the oldest one money, the youngest one wasn't getting money.
Okay.
You know, but they see it from their eyes and their point of view, it's different.
Okay. Okay. So, let's just say this. Jim has 2 older sisters. And they think that he, of course, being the youngest child and the only boy, and also a junior, that he was treated very differently by his father than they were. Okay. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of truth to that. And it just continues to repeat itself. I'm a middle child, so I don't really know.
See, I was gonna say it doesn't matter. You know, in any family, there's the oldest child syndrome, there's the middle child syndrome, there's the youngest child syndrome, and then there's the youngest child and you're the only boy, the youngest child and you're the only girl, or whatever it is. You know, there are always gonna be treated differently.
That is true. My mom has the best saying ever.
And then the first one could be just the experiment.
Yeah.
You know,
the first one is the experiment.
Through life. And so, where, the first daughter comes through, you're opposed to dating.
Hold on. We have a call. Let's
terminated.
Call back.
So the first daughter, she comes through and you have to deal with her dating. So when the second daughter comes through, it's over. You already had dealt with that. So now you have rules and regulations as opposed to opposition.
Right.
And the third one, he better learn by himself or whatever.
SOL, buddy. You're
just supposed to know through osmosis.
Yeah. And if it's a boy, then, well, heck, you're already going to treat him differently because he's a boy. So it's like, yeah, whatever, go ahead through, So you already went through the opposition and everything else.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Sisters in Company.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Hey, Brother Jim, Brother Cheryl. His name is Shrek.
Carl.
Say Shrek.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, this is Brother Chris Hardnick. I live a few miles from you guys. I talked to
Hey,
Sister
Chris,
Cheryl
how you
about
doing, man? How you doing?
Sisters in Company this morning. I'm doing well, brother. Hey, what an awesome topic. I'm really impressed with the show. Just want to give you a quick shout out.
Thank you.
At the same time, I grew up with a single parent, and my mom was a single parent, but I had coaches in my life, and I don't know if Jim coached Jalen and in soccer, whatever, but coaches are a great resource for male role models, and I don't know if you guys touched on it or not, but I just wanted to share that.
Actually, Chris, no, we hadn't touched on that, but you're right. Coaches can be a great role model for young boys and girls too, but particularly for our young men. I know my son's soccer coach, the boys on the team really like him and respect him. And so he's created an environment where they feel safe and they feel like they can not only work hard to play soccer, but also have some fun too. So you bring up a great point about coaches.
Yeah, that was a good topic.
I can say, I played sports, through my adolescence coming up, and there have been many coaches, and this goes back to, how to be a father and learning to be a man and all that. My father was in my life, but I don't ever remember him or me going to PTA meetings.
Ain't that the
so
truth?
he was that figure, that father figure, be a man, don't cry. He didn't say don't cry or anything, but, he was always there.
Right.
But not like fathers are there for their kids today.
Right.
So even though I had a father figure in my life, I had a lot of father figures. I had my father, my coaches, and my friends' fathers, so all that you take, I think, as influence into life, and, it molds you and how you may, live your life.
It does. I have my dad and my stepdad. And to be honest, I felt that my mother did more of a male role model than both parents. Sorry if y'all listening and watching, but that's how I feel and that's how I see it. But in that term, you know, I had to prepare myself on how to, you know, become a man for my own self. And both my daughters were put in Girl Scouts and cheerleading as well, so they can be around other little girls and other moms, so they can see and have talks with them as well, so they can get a different, you know, light on what they were going through as kids.
Okay, thank you for calling, Chris. I'm going to take this question off of Facebook because I think it's important and we're running out of time. But it says, thank you for calling, Chris.
Okay. Hey, God bless you, brothers and sisters.
Uh-huh. So last question we're going to take. It says, so you guys have one of each. Do you, actually Carl has 2 daughters, but do you think both were an experiment, and how do you prepare your son to deal with other black men, police, peer pressure? Because these younger kids are on another level where they would rather shoot you than fight you. Whoa.
That's a great question. Great question.
That's a great question. So, Jim, we'll give you that question because I know you've had conversations with the young boy about those topics.
It boils down to the company you keep. You know, if your core and because he plays sports, he has a lot of teammates, and the parents we hang around with have the same values. So it starts with the company you keep. What happens out on the street, you really can't control, but you have to be prepared for and aware of. Things can happen. So, you know, I tell him be the best he can be, you know, present himself well to the public, and usually, you know, you don't just walk into situations like that. Accidents do happen, but that's what I try and tell him. Just be prepared and aware of everything that's going on around you. So that's
Okay, so as you can see, time has gone by us once again really quickly. So I want to thank Carl for coming on here and just being authentic and kind of sharing your experiences with our audience. And also like to say thank you to my wonderful man for coming on here, sharing his experiences as well. We want to thank you all for watching. You can check us out every Sunday at 3 o'clock on listenvisionlive.com. Sisters and Company talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
all righty. We're not clear yet.
But the weatherman acted up.